The glittering facade of Napa Valley's most exclusive vineyard was ready to shatter, and you wouldn't believe who was standing right there as the first cracks appeared. A wedding, they called it. A celebration of opulence and generational wealth, where every champagne flute clinked with untold stories and every tailored suit hid a secret. But beneath the polished surfaces and forced smiles, a storm was brewing, threatening to unleash a reckoning so spectacular, so utterly shocking, that merely hearing about it secondhand wouldn't do it justice. This was a day that would redefine what family truly meant, stripping away the gilded veneer to reveal the raw, uncomfortable truth. And trust me, you absolutely do not want to be anywhere else but right here, right now, to witness the breathtaking unraveling of a dynasty and the rise of the most unlikely heir. The Emerald Intruder. The crisp spring sun over Napa Valley, usually a welcoming embrace, felt almost mocking as I made my way towards the grand vineyard gates. My heels, cheap and secondhand, clicked a hollow rhythm against the perfectly laid cobblestones, each step echoing louder than I wished, a constant, nagging reminder that I was an anomaly in this extravagant landscape. Rows of ancient olive trees, their silvery leaves shimmering, framed the picturesque path, while climbing roses, meticulously trained, wound elegantly around a majestic archway. White-gloved waiters glided past me like silent specters, trays laden with sparkling champagne flutes, yet not once was I offered a glass. It was as if I were invisible, a phantom guest at a celebration I wasn't meant to attend. I caught my reflection in one of the polished glass doors of the reception hall. My forest green dress, a rare find from a Boston thrift store, hung a little awkwardly on my frame, definitely not designed for the haute couture parade I was about to join. My hair, usually pinned up, was loose, a little wind-tossed from the drive, and faint freckles peeked through the makeup I hadn't even bothered to reapply. In this sea of designer gowns, bespoke tuxedos, and diamond-studded watches, I looked precisely like what I felt, an intruder. Emily. The voice, sharp and precise, froze me mid-step. My mother, Linda, materialized beside me, her measured, predatory smile firmly in place, the one she reserved exclusively for social functions, a thin mask over her true feelings. Her eyes, cool and analytical, swept over me from head to toe, dissecting my appearance with surgical precision. My shoes, my hemline, the neckline of my dress. It was as if she were grading a wound, assessing the damage. "Decent?" she finally offered, her lips curling into a tight, almost imperceptible sneer, as if the very word were an insult, a concession grudgingly made. My throat tightened, a familiar knot of apprehension and frustration. "That's all you're going to say?" I managed, my voice barely a whisper against the gentle hum of the distant string quartet. She leaned closer, her expensive perfume, sharp and cloying, stinging my nostrils. "You RSVP'd alone. Don't make me regret letting you in." And with that dismissive flick of her hand, she swept away, her brittle laughter tinkling a little too loudly as she joined a guest draped in sequins. I stood rooted to the spot, my hands clenching my small beaded clutch. I hadn't expected a hug, not from Linda, but not even a nod, not a simple, "I'm glad you came." The oversight stung, a familiar ache in my chest. Then I saw him, Michael, my brother, the golden child, the star of today's extravagant spectacle. He was surrounded by his old college friends near the ancient olive trees, one arm casually looped around Olivia, his radiant fiancée, the other lazily cradling a glass of amber whiskey. His laughter, bright and effortless, carried across the patio, a stark contrast to my quiet invisibility. "Michael," I called out, forcing a smile that felt alien on my lips. He glanced my way, his eyes flicking over me so quickly I might as well have been a stranger asking for directions. "Oh, hey, you made it." His words were flat, perfunctory, his gaze already shifting back to his friends, their easy camaraderie. Olivia's eyes, an unreadable shade of gray, followed mine for a fleeting moment. Her ivory lace gown clung to her like it was stitched onto her skin, a vision of effortless perfection. Her smile was tight, polite, entirely uninterested. Heat crept up my neck, a familiar flush of humiliation. Every instinct screamed at me to turn and run, to disappear into the fading light, but something stubborn, something deeply ingrained, rooted me there. This was my family, fractured and dysfunctional as they were, and I refused to vanish so easily. So I lingered at the edges of the gathering, clutching my bag, pretending to scan the crowd for someone who might care, someone who might actually see me. But the truth settled heavy and cold in my stomach. I was just a guest at my own family's celebration, and perhaps not even that. A seat among the discarded. Then, through the cacophony of polite laughter and the delicate clinking of champagne glasses, a new sound cut through the air. The low rumble of tires on gravel. A sleek, dark town car slowed to a halt near the grand gates, and my heart inexplicably skipped a beat. A quiet gasp escaped my lips as the door opened. Grandpa William had arrived. The car door swung open with a soft thud, and there he was, Grandpa William. His back was a little hunched, his steps deliberate and slow, but his eyes, a piercing, sharp blue, lit up with an unmistakable warmth when they found mine. He wore a dark navy suit that hung a little loose on his once commanding frame, a tie slightly crooked, his shoes polished just enough to show he'd made an effort. At 82, he shouldn't have traveled 6 hours across the country, but he had, all for Michael. "Emily," he rasped, his voice rough with age but steady with affection. "You're the only one worth flying for." My throat closed, a sudden lump forming. I rushed forward, wrapping my arms around his frail body. The faint, comforting smell of peppermint gum and old aftershave clung to his jacket. For a precious moment, the superficial noise of the wedding faded into a distant hum, and it was just us, me and the only person in this sprawling, self-absorbed family who still truly saw me. But when I pulled back and looked around, no one else moved. Not my father, Richard, who stood pretending to be utterly fascinated by the extensive wine list. Not my mother, Linda, who was meticulously polishing her diamond bracelet in the sunlight, her face devoid of expression. Not even Michael, the groom, who didn't so much as offer a wave or a fleeting glance. A staffer suddenly appeared, clipboard in hand, a picture of brisk efficiency. "This way, sir," he announced, gesturing vaguely towards the far side of the patio. I started to follow, a sense of relief washing over me, imagining Grandpa being led to a quiet, comfortable spot. But then I froze. The path the staffer indicated curved past the fragrant flower arch, past the shimmering fountain, past the bustling outdoor kitchen, and ended at 2 flimsy plastic chairs. They were wedged unceremoniously between overflowing trash bins, the incessant hum of the catering vents drowning out the elegant music of the string quartet. My chest went tight, a sudden suffocating constriction. "Excuse me," I called out to the staffer, my voice betraying my disbelief. "There must be a mistake." He merely checked his chart, shrugged dismissively, and walked off, leaving me standing alone with a growing horror. I turned to my mother, who stood not 20 feet away, sipping champagne as if it were the very air she breathed. "Why is Grandpa sitting there?" I demanded, my voice hushed but raw with indignation. She didn't even blink. Her gaze slid past me, as if I weren't even worth her time. Finally, with a sigh that suggested immense effort, she muttered, "He insisted on coming. I told him he wouldn't enjoy himself. Beggars can't be choosers." My fists curled instinctively at my sides, my nails digging into my palms. "He's not a beggar." Her lips tightened into a thin, furious line. She stepped closer, her whisper as sharp and cutting as broken glass. "That old man will embarrass us. The way he talks, the way he eats, the way he smells. I won't have him ruining Michael's day." I stared at her, searching desperately for any crack of humanity, any flicker of warmth or recognition of the man who had built everything this family now enjoyed. I found nothing. Her face was taut, her eyes cold and utterly devoid of emotion. She wasn't even pretending anymore. I glanced back at Grandpa. He sat quietly on the flimsy plastic chair, his shoulders slouched, a picture of resigned dignity, pretending not to notice the overflowing trash or the pitying, fleeting glances from curious strangers. His gnarled hands rested on his cane, knuckles pale and prominent. It felt like a punch to the gut, a sickening blow that stole my breath. My grandfather, William Hale, the man who had built every single thing this family owned, discarded like refuse at his own grandson's wedding. In that searing moment, I knew with an absolute, undeniable certainty that silence was no longer an option. The crack of truth. My pulse pounded in my ears, a frantic drumbeat drowning out the gentle clinking of crystal glasses and the polite laughter that floated across the manicured vineyard. Waiters began ushering guests to their elaborately decorated tables, but all I could see was my grandfather, 82 years old, seated beside overflowing trash bins like an unwanted afterthought. My hands trembled, but an unyielding resolve, fierce and unshakable, ignited within me. I wasn't going to let this pass. With a deliberate, almost defiant motion, I picked up a fork and tapped it against a champagne flute. The delicate ting sliced through the genteel chatter, unnaturally loud in the sudden quiet. Conversations died mid-sentence. Dozens of faces, expectant and curious, turned towards me. "Excuse me," I began, my voice trembling at first, a telltale quiver that threatened to betray my burgeoning courage. I took a deep, bracing breath, drawing strength from somewhere deep inside, and straightened my shoulders. "I just have one question." I looked directly at my parents, my gaze unwavering, my voice now clear and undeniably louder. "Why is my grandfather seated by the trash bins while strangers sit at the family table?" A collective gasp rippled through the stunned crowd. A few guests exchanged nervous, furtive glances. Others leaned forward, their expressions a mixture of shock and avid curiosity. Then the sharp, deliberate click of heels, like gunshots on stone, announced my mother's furious approach. Her eyes blazed with a terrifying, incandescent rage. "You ungrateful girl," she hissed, her voice venomous before I could even flinch. Her hand, a blur of white-knuckled fury, struck my cheek with a sharp, sickening crack. The sound echoed across the silent patio like a whip, brutal and shocking. My skin burned instantly, a searing pain, but it was the profound, public humiliation that stung worse, a deep, aching wound to my very soul. A collective gasp spread through the room, thicker and more horrified this time. Someone dropped a fork, the sound unusually loud in the heavy silence. Another whispered, "Did she just—" I staggered back, clutching my burning face, the world tilting precariously for a second. But I refused to cry. Not here. Not in front of them. "You don't belong here," my mother spat, her voice dripping with pure venom. "You never did. Get out before you embarrass us even more." She snapped her fingers imperiously at a nearby staffer, her eyes blazing. "Escort her out." I swallowed hard, forcing my chin up, even as my vision blurred with unshed tears. "All I did was ask for respect for him," I whispered, pointing a trembling finger towards Grandpa William. But no one moved to defend me. My father, Richard, looked away, suddenly utterly fascinated by his cufflinks. Michael shifted uncomfortably, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes, but he remained silent, complicit. Olivia leaned closer to him, whispering, her own expression a tight mask. The staffer hesitated, his eyes darting nervously between me and my mother, caught in an impossible situation. My mother's glare hardened, unwavering, and finally, he took a reluctant step forward. "It's fine," I said quickly, my voice steady despite the raw ache in my throat and the fresh sting on my cheek. "I can walk myself out." I turned, my heels catching on the gravel, my thrift store skirt dragging against the dusty stones. The crowd parted in a hushed, uncomfortable silence, 100 eyes fixed on me, on my shame. Shame wrapped itself around me like a second skin, heavy and suffocating. Behind me, my mother's voice, cold and clear, carried across the patio. "Ungrateful, just like her grandfather." I didn't look back. I couldn't. But as I reached the very edge of the patio, I felt a faint movement. Grandpa William had risen from his chair. Slowly, painfully, he walked towards me. He pressed something into my palm, a green silk handkerchief, frayed at the edges, intricately embroidered with the letter E. I closed my fingers around it, clutching it tight. My cheeks still burned from the slap, but his quiet, defiant gesture felt like a promise. And for the first time that day, I wasn't entirely alone. The king's motorcade. I sank onto a low, rough stone wall at the very edge of the vineyard, the humiliation still a burning ember on my cheek, the imprint of my mother's hand a phantom ache. Grandpa's green silk handkerchief was clutched so tightly in my fist that the embroidery dug into my skin, a small, tangible anchor in the swirling chaos of my emotions. But worse than the physical sting was the silence, the heavy, condemning silence of hundreds of eyes watching me walk away, a pariah, a disgrace. Faintly from the distant patio, I could still hear the ghost of music and laughter, almost convincing myself I had imagined the entire horrifying scene. Then the world around me shifted. A low rumble, steady and deep, reached my ears. It was heavier, more profound than any car engine I had ever heard, resonating through the very ground beneath my heels. At first, I dismissed it as distant thunder, rolling over the sun-drenched valley. But the tremor intensified, a vibration that ran up through my legs. I squinted towards the gravel road that curved behind the vineyard, shielding my eyes from the late afternoon sun, which seemed to glow with a strange, expectant intensity. That's when I saw it. A sleek, obsidian black Rolls-Royce glided into view, its polished paint catching the golden light, reflecting the vineyard's grandeur with an almost regal sheen. Two equally dark SUVs followed close behind, their engines humming in perfect synchronized power. The cars slowed, moving with a deliberate, almost processional elegance, exuding an undeniable aura of power and authority. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. The very air around me seemed to shift, charged with an unspoken significance. Even the birds in the olive trees seemed to quiet. The Rolls-Royce stopped just yards away from me, its presence commanding the entire landscape. A uniformed chauffeur, moving with quiet urgency, stepped out and hurried to the rear door. He pulled it open, and out stepped Grandpa. But this was not the frail, slightly hunched man who had shuffled from a modest town car an hour earlier, his tie askew, his shoulders slumped. No, this was William Hale, billionaire founder of Hale Vineyards, the man whose name was whispered with reverence in exclusive wine auctions and echoed across industry boardrooms. His suit was perfectly tailored this time, the navy fabric sharp and impeccable against his frame. His shoes gleamed like obsidian mirrors. Dark sunglasses shielded his eyes, lending him an air of enigmatic power. But the set of his shoulders was unmistakable, straight, confident, unyielding. Two formidable men in dark suits flanked him, moving with crisp professional precision, their eyes scanning the grounds with practiced vigilance. Security. My mouth fell open, a silent gasp escaping. "Grandpa?" I whispered, barely able to breathe, the sound lost in the sudden, charged silence. He spotted me instantly. He paused, a deliberate theatrical gesture, and slid off his sunglasses. His eyes, clear, steady, and achingly familiar, met mine. A faint, knowing smile played on his lips. "Well, sweetheart," he said, his voice strong and resonant, utterly unlike the raspy tone he'd used before. "Ready to shake things up?" I stood slowly, clutching the green handkerchief tighter, my heart hammering against my ribs with an almost painful intensity. "What? What's going on?" He offered me his arm, his lips curling into that tight, knowing smile once more. "Let's see if your brother remembers who actually owns this land." My knees almost buckled beneath me. "Owns this land?" I repeated, stunned, the words barely forming. The two security men, silent and efficient, moved towards the side gate, the very same gate I'd been shoved through in shame mere moments earlier. This time, however, no staff member blocked their path. One even held the gate open, his eyes darting nervously to Grandpa, a new and undeniable respect etched on his face. I swallowed hard, slipped my trembling hand through Grandpa's arm, and let him lead me forward. My heels crunched against the gravel, but I didn't stumble. Not this time. With every resolute step, a startling, electrifying truth pressed harder against my chest, expanding until it filled me entirely. This wasn't merely a rented venue for Michael's lavish wedding. This was his vineyard, his empire, and suddenly, with a chilling certainty, I realized I was about to watch the entire world I thought I knew unravel in front of everyone. A reckoning at the altar. The elegant strains of the string quartet drifted out through the open patio doors of the reception hall, mingling with the last vestiges of forced laughter. Grandpa and I stepped through the side gate, our entrance unnoticed by most. Guests were mid-toast, glasses raised high, oblivious to the seismic shift that was about to occur. My mother's voice, amplified by a microphone, rang out over the crowd, bright and self-congratulatory. And of course, none of this would be possible without Michael's vision, his ambition, his dedication. Her words snapped like brittle glass underfoot the very instant her eyes landed on us. Grandpa didn't hesitate. His cane tapped against the polished stone floor in a sharp, rhythmic cadence as he crossed the patio, the two security men flanking him like immutable shadows. Conversations died mid-sentence. Champagne glasses hovered in the air, forgotten, as heads slowly began to turn, a wave of stunned silence spreading outward from our point of entry. My father's jaw went slack, his face a sudden mask of disbelief. Michael, the golden groom, slowly lowered his drink, his face paling to an ashen gray. Olivia's hand clutched his arm, her eyes wide with a dawning horror, as if she had just seen a ghost. Grandpa mounted the low platform beside the string quartet with a quiet, powerful authority. Without a word, without a moment of hesitation, he reached out and gently yet firmly took the microphone from my mother's trembling hand. She didn't resist. She just stared at him, wide-eyed and speechless, as if the very air had been stolen from her lungs, her carefully constructed composure utterly shattered. Grandpa turned to the captive crowd, his gaze sweeping over the sea of shocked faces. His voice, calm but heavy with an undeniable authority, filled the sudden, echoing silence. "I wasn't going to say anything," he began, his words measured and clear. "After all, it's a wedding, a day for joy, a day for love, but sometimes silence is mistaken for weakness, and I think it's time people knew the truth." A low murmur rippled across the guests, a collective intake of breath. My father fidgeted nervously, tugging at his collar. Michael stared intently at his polished shoes, as if they held the answers to the universe. Grandpa's eyes, sharp and unwavering, swept the entire room, missing nothing. "I built this vineyard with these hands," he declared, his voice resonating with years of hard-won experience. "I named it after my late wife, Carmen. I gave it to this family, trusted that it would be cared for. But when I arrived today, no one welcomed me. No one asked where I should sit. Instead, I was placed beside trash bins because that was the message, wasn't it? That I was disposable." A sharp gasp rose from the back of the room. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Grandpa's gaze shifted, cold and deliberate, towards my parents, who stood frozen in horror. "And I," he added, his voice chillingly precise, received the message loud and clear. My mother, Linda, found her voice at last, a desperate, strangled sound. "William, please, you're making a scene. Don't ruin Michael's day." Grandpa's cane slammed against the stage with a resounding crack, silencing her instantly. The sharp, unexpected sound echoed through the glass ceiling like a peal of thunder, a final punctuation mark. "Ruin it?" he boomed, his voice rising steady and commanding. "No. What ruins a day is cruelty disguised as pride. What ruins a family is greed hidden behind champagne flutes. You think I'm the embarrassment?" His voice swelled, filling every corner of the vast hall. "No, the embarrassment is yours." He paused, letting his words hang heavy in the air, then turned his gaze towards me. His eyes softened perceptibly, and his words came slow, deliberate, laden with a weight of purpose. "I built this empire for her," he said, pointing directly at me, "not for you." The air was sucked from the room, leaving a vacuum of stunned disbelief. Forks clinked against plates as hands trembled. Olivia's parents exchanged startled, horrified glances. Every single head in the room turned towards me, where I stood near the arch, half hidden in the gathering shadows. "Her?" Michael's voice cracked, thin with disbelief, utterly devoid of its earlier carefree laughter. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm very serious," Grandpa said, his tone like tempered steel, utterly unyielding. "She was the only one who visited me when I was sick, the only one who cared, while the rest of you," his gaze swept across my parents, then across Michael, a silent accusation, "were too busy polishing your reputations." My mother's face twisted, crimson with rage and humiliation. "Lies. She's nothing. She is everything you are not," Grandpa cut her off, his voice booming, silencing her furious outburst. The crowd had gone utterly silent, but it wasn't a polite silence. It was sharp, breathless, heavy with revelation. I felt dozens of eyes on me, but this time I didn't shrink. My cheeks still burned from the slap, but the shame, the crushing weight of it, was gone. In its place was something stronger, a fierce, anchoring sense of justice, rooted by the green silk handkerchief still clenched tightly in my palm. Grandpa lifted the microphone higher, his next words slicing through the room like a perfectly honed blade. "You wanted to bury me behind the trash. Instead, you buried yourselves. Because the truth doesn't rot in the dark, it waits. And now it's here." The unveiling of betrayal. For a moment, an eternity seemed to stretch, and no one in that glass-walled reception hall moved. The air thickened, heavy with unspoken tension, every guest frozen between disbelief and a dawning dread. Then, with a slow, deliberate movement, Grandpa reached into his blazer and pulled out a thick, cream-colored envelope, sealed with a formal wax stamp and notarized with an official seal. He held it high for all to see. "This," he declared, his voice utterly steady, resonating with unshakable authority, is the will, the true will, signed, dated, and witnessed long before any of you tried to twist it. Gasps rippled through the stunned crowd once more. My father, Richard, lurched forward, his face pale and contorted with a mixture of terror and outrage. "That's not possible! You changed it months later. You don't remember." Grandpa's eyes narrowed, sharp and dangerous. "Don't I?" He opened the envelope with a deliberate, agonizing slowness, sliding out the heavy official papers. Dated 2 months before my illness, long before pneumonia, long before sedation, when my mind was sharp and my hand was steady. He lifted a specific page, and even from where I stood, I recognized the bold, sweeping signature, his unmistakable mark. "You told the lawyer I was unfit," Grandpa said, his voice now a whip crack, cutting through the silence. "You forged medical affidavits while I lay in a hospital bed, trusting you." His cane slammed against the stage once more, a punctuation mark of righteous fury. "You stole, not from me, from her." Dozens of eyes swung towards me, a whirlwind of accusation and astonishment. My breath caught in my throat. Before anyone could speak, the back doors of the reception hall creaked open with an ominous groan. A figure in a simple gray hoodie stepped inside, his presence entirely out of place amidst the finery. My pulse leapt. It was Matteo, a former vineyard manager who had mysteriously vanished after Michael had restructured the staff months ago. He walked forward, his steps deliberate, pulling something from his pocket. A small USB drive glinted menacingly in the ambient light. "I think you'll want to see this," he said, his voice steady despite the visible tremble in his hands. Grandpa nodded once, a silent command, and one of his security men moved with swift precision, plugging the drive into the reception's large overhead projector. The screen flickered, then came to life. The footage was grainy but undeniably clear. The timestamp in the corner read, "Past midnight." The scene was the fermentation chamber. Michael, my brother, slipped inside, glancing furtively over his shoulder. In his hand, he held a dark container. He moved to one of the massive steel tanks, unscrewed the cap, and began to pour. A low murmur swept through the crowd. Someone whispered, "Is that—" "Yes," Matteo's voice cut through the hushed room, confirming the worst. "Industrial solvent. He paid me $10,000 to call it an accident. I couldn't live with that." On screen, Michael's figure froze, caught mid-pour, his face illuminated by the harsh security camera light, his guilt undeniable. Olivia gasped, covering her mouth with both hands, her eyes wide with horror. "Michael, no," she whispered, a desperate plea. Michael shot to his feet, color draining from his face, leaving him chalk white. "This is a setup, a family vendetta," he blustered, his voice high-pitched and frantic. "Sit down," snapped a shareholder from the front row, his voice like a hammer hitting an anvil. "This is felony-level sabotage." My mother's face twisted, a mask of desperation. "You don't understand. We were protecting the brand, protecting the family name." "No," I said, stepping forward, my voice ringing clear and strong across the stunned hall, no longer a whisper. "You were protecting your ego, and you were willing to poison everything, including Grandma's last blend, just to keep control." Silence followed. Not the awkward kind, but the heavy, final kind that wraps chains around the guilty. Grandpa's voice, firm and unyielding, cut through it once more. "I trusted this family. I entrusted this vineyard to your care, and you repaid me with lies, forged documents, and sabotage. Enough." He turned to the attorney, a quiet, serious man who had appeared at his side. The man adjusted his glasses, cleared his throat, and held up a leather folder. "Effective immediately," the lawyer read, his voice firm and official. "William Hale has transferred all legal authority and controlling interest in Hale Vineyards to his granddaughter, Emily Hale. The land, the winery, and all associated assets are secured under her name." The words crashed like thunder, utterly destroying the last vestiges of the charade. Guests gasped. Some, surprisingly, even applauded softly, a quiet rebellion of justice. But my family, my so-called family, sat utterly stricken. My father's lips moved soundlessly, articulating a silent scream of despair. My mother's hands clutched the back of a chair, her knuckles bone-white. Michael looked like someone had quite literally pulled the ground out from beneath him. Grandpa lifted his cane, pointing it directly at them, a symbol of his restored authority. "You tried to erase me. You tried to erase her. But the truth doesn't bend. No matter how much money you pour over it, all it does is wait. And as I stood there, the green silk handkerchief still clenched in my fist, I felt the shame of earlier burn away, replaced with something fierce, something unshakable. For the first time, I wasn't the outcast. I was the heir. The reckoning and the rebirth. The reception hall had transformed into a graveyard of broken illusions. Guests shifted uneasily in their ornate chairs, whispers slithering through the air like smoke. The string quartet had ceased playing entirely, their instruments resting silently in their laps, their music replaced by the deafening hum of shattered dreams. Michael exploded first. He shot up from his chair, his voice wild and raw with a desperate, cornered animal rage. "This is insane. It's all lies. She set me up." He jabbed a trembling finger at me, his face blotched red with fury. "Emily doesn't deserve anything. She's always been jealous of me. Tell them, Mom! Tell them!" Linda, my mother, rose beside him, her pearl necklace trembling violently against her throat. "Of course, she is jealous. She has nothing. She has always been nothing." Her eyes, blazing with fury, snapped to Grandpa. "William, this is madness. You're destroying your own family." I took a step forward, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs, but my voice, surprisingly, remained steady, clear, and unyielding. "No, Mom, you destroyed this family the moment you chose appearances over love. You slapped me in front of everyone because I defended him." I pointed at Grandpa, who watched me with a quiet, knowing pride. "You treated him like garbage because you thought he was powerless. That's who you are." Her eyes narrowed, venom dripping from her words like poison. "You still don't belong, Emily. You never did." Something inside me hardened, solidified into unshakable resolve. I lifted my chin, meeting her furious glare head-on, unflinching. "You're wrong. I used to believe that. I used to think I was the failure, the outsider, the shame of this family. But now I see clearly. I was never the embarrassment. You were." A collective gasp swept through the hall, louder than any before. One guest actually clutched her pearls, shaking her head in disbelief and quiet admiration. Another muttered, "She's right." Richard, my father, finally stirred, a flicker of genuine fear in his eyes. His voice cracked, thin and desperate. "Stop this! You'll destroy us all!" "Emily, think about what you're doing." I turned to him, my throat tight with emotion, but my words were firm, uncompromising. "I have thought about it, all night, all my life, and I'm done carrying the weight of your lies." Michael's chair screeched backward as he lurched towards me, his fists clenched, pure rage contorting his features. One of Grandpa's security men intercepted him instantly, placing a firm, unyielding hand against his chest. "Sit down, sir," the guard said flatly, his voice brokering no argument. Michael froze, his breath ragged, his eyes darting wildly around the room as if searching for an impossible escape. Olivia, his almost bride, sat pale and trembling, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "Michael, tell me it isn't true," she whispered, her voice choked with heartbreak. But Michael said nothing. His silence was louder, more damning than any confession. Across the room, Olivia's father rose abruptly, his face a mask of cold disgust. "Get the car," he commanded his wife, his eyes flicking to Michael. "We're done here." The entire wedding teetered on the brink of absolute collapse. Dresses rustled as guests shifted nervously, exchanging horrified whispers. Someone muttered, "I didn't sign up for this circus." Grandpa slammed his cane once more, the sound cracking through the suffocating tension, bringing all chaos to a sudden, abrupt halt. "Enough!" His voice thundered with an air of absolute finality. "This wedding is over. No vows will be spoken while this family stands on poisoned ground." The officiant, his face pale and grim, slowly, solemnly closed the leather-bound book in front of him. The hush that followed was suffocating, heavy with the weight of shattered dreams. And just like that, Michael's perfect day, the culmination of so many lies and manipulations, shattered into irreparable ruins. When the officiant snapped his book shut, it was as though the very air itself shifted, releasing a collective sigh. Guests began to scatter, murmuring, shaking their heads, some storming out in disgust, others lingering in stunned, disbelieving silence. The wedding had collapsed like a house of cards, its flimsy structure unable to withstand the truth, and for once, I wasn't the one left in the rubble. Grandpa placed a hand on my shoulder, steady, grounding, a comforting weight. "It's time to leave this rot behind, Emily," he said quietly, his words devoid of anger, filled instead with a quiet, resolute determination. Later that evening, far away from the chaos and the shattered glamour, I found myself in the lower garden, Grandma Carmen's sanctuary. The roses she'd planted decades ago still bloomed along the fence line, their delicate fragrance lingering in the cooling dusk. I sat on the worn wooden bench where she used to hum softly while pruning her beloved vines, clutching the green handkerchief Grandpa had given me, the embroidery pressing into my palm. The soil at my feet was dry, cracked from neglect, but I ran my hands through it anyway, just to feel closer to her enduring spirit. That's when my fingers brushed against something hard, buried just beneath the surface, a rusted tin box. I pried it open, my heart racing with a sudden, inexplicable anticipation, and inside, nestled in faded linen, was a letter penned in Grandma's familiar, elegant cursive. If you're reading this, Emily, then you already know the truth. They never saw your strength, but I did. This land belongs to the one who knows how to love it back. Tears blurred the words, but they weren't tears of pain or sorrow. They were tears of recognition, of profound understanding. For the first time, I felt her voice beside me, her hand guiding mine, a gentle, unseen presence. Weeks later, the vineyard came alive again, but not with designer gowns and clinking champagne toasts. It hummed with the genuine warmth of neighbors, the diligent work of returning vineyard workers, and the laughter of true friends who remembered what it truly meant to belong. We set rustic tables under strings of paper lanterns, casting a soft golden glow between the ancient olive trees. Fresh-baked bread and fragrant rosemary lay in simple baskets. Laughter rose, unforced, genuine, echoing through the revitalized space. I wore a simple navy dress, nothing glamorous, but pinned to my chest was Grandma's old grapevine brooch, a symbol of continuity and enduring love. As I poured wine into the glasses of people who had labored here for decades, their faces etched with the honest lines of hard work, I finally felt what family, a true family, should be. Grandpa tapped his cane against the small wooden riser we'd built near the pergola, drawing everyone's attention. He lifted his glass, his voice ringing clear and strong, full of pride. "To Emily," he declared, his gaze finding mine and holding it, "the one who remembered what family is supposed to mean. This vineyard doesn't belong to me anymore. It belongs to her because she chose love over pride." The crowd erupted in genuine applause, glasses clinking in solidarity and heartfelt celebration. I raised mine too, but my throat was too tight with emotion for words. Later, when the garden had emptied and only the soft glow of the lanterns remained, I walked alone between the rows of vines. The soil crunched softly under my shoes, and the night air smelled of rich earth and boundless possibility. At the base of the main vine, the oldest and strongest, stood a new plaque we'd installed that morning. It read, "For Carmen, for those who bloom after being buried." I touched the cool brass, then the earth beneath, whispering softly into the quiet night, "Thank you for waiting." For once, I didn't feel like a visitor. I didn't feel like an embarrassment. I felt home.